Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedom and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties education and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country. In the courtrooms of America, Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedom.
Billy Graham urges Americans to vote for biblical values on November 6. Hi, I'm Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel. Joining me is Matt Barber, vice president of Liberty Counsel Action. We're going to be talking about this, I think, incredible statement by Billy Graham. He is currently 93 years of age. He is about ready to turn 94. He says that he likely will see his last election. And, in fact, now what he's done is he's come out with these full-page ads in the USA Today and Washington Post and other places around the country, and he's urging people also to run those ads or distribute the messages where he encourages people to vote for biblical values. This is really unprecedented because he has always steered away from politics, and he hasn't endorsed anyone. He's just telling people to vote for biblical values because this election is so critically important.
I think it underscores just how critically important this election is because in his many, many decades of life, the Reverend Billy Graham, who is just a real patriarch in the evangelical community, and not just the evangelical community, but beyond, people have looked to him for years and years as a real leader, and he has intentionally avoided getting to what people might consider political. But I think he is recognizing at this point in time that we are really at a crossroads and that the country could go either the way of biblical values or as it has been going and continues to go, going directly against biblical values. And so the fact that he is making the statement shows you just how important this election is.
Well, let me read from one of the ads. And you can find these on Liberty Counsel's website at lc.org, but there's other ads that are on the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association website that you can actually find as well and post or run in your own newspaper. But this one here says, "The legacy we leave behind for our children, grandchildren, and this great nation is crucial. As I approach my 94th birthday, I realize this election could be my last. I believe it is vitally important that we cast our ballots for candidates who base their decisions on biblical principles and support the nation of Israel. I urge you to vote for those who protect the sanctity of life and support the biblical definition of marriage between a man and a woman. Vote for biblical values this November 6 and pray with me that America will remain one nation under God." Billy Graham, and it's got his photograph there as well. Another ad actually also includes religious liberty as part of these biblical values. So the sanctity of human life, the natural definition of marriage as the union of one man, one woman, religious liberty, and the support for the nation of Israel. Very powerful words. I read that recently when I was speaking at a church, and some people said that they were very moved by that because everyone knows Billy Graham. He is a worldwide renowned evangelist, known everywhere for his stadium evangelistic meetings that he's done throughout his entire life. And as a result, he's been focused solely on just giving the gospel in a very simple, straightforward message, and not wanting to even talk about elections or politics. He's prayed with all of the presidents, Republican and Democrat. But now as he's approaching his perhaps last election, he realizes that America is at a critical point, and he is urging people to vote for these biblical values when they go to the polls.
Well, and it sure ties in and really bolsters and buoys what we have been trying to do at Liberty Counsel for a long time, and that is to reach out to pastors and to get them to lead their flocks and to help them to understand that this notion that somehow moral principles, religious principles, and political advocacy are that they're somehow mutually exclusive and neither the twain shall meet. Well, the Reverend Jerry Falwell often said that they're not mutually exclusive. They're one and the same. Politics is about morality. They say you can't legislate morality. We know that's not the truth. You always legislate morality. The question is, whose morality are we going to legislate? And here the Reverend Billy Graham is saying we need to have legislators and people holding positions of power who are going to help help further biblical principles and lead us back on the right path.
What he's saying is just completely the role of a pastor. He's not being political, frankly. He is being a pastor. Being a pastor, that is the spokesperson, the voice of biblical truth. And as I've talked to pastors before, Dr. Jerry Falwell was one of them. He always said that he wasn't political, that he was just being truthful and faithful to his call as a pastor, that these were not political issues, these were moral issues. And because the government or politicians politicize moral issues doesn't mean that pastors no longer have a role in these matters. But these are biblical issues. That also same message I've heard recently from a pastor that I met going through the airport. Friend of mine, very apolitical. He has retired, but he is now working as an interim pastor for a church that is searching for a pastor. And he said that he's never done this before, but he was going to, and he already preached this message, put up on the screen all the moral issues that we are facing and that we faced over the last several years in this country. He says these are not political, these are just biblical moral issues, and he's going to urge people to vote for candidates that support and align with biblical and moral issues. So these kinds of things are happening from many pastors like Billy Graham, like the one I just mentioned, and even like John MacArthur, that has been not only just apolitical but anti-political, has now talked about how these issues are becoming so critical. And they will be decided in our lifetime, perhaps in this election.
Matt, there's so much bad information out there that is intentionally disseminated. I had a pastor call me the other day to ask me whether he could endorse a candidate as an individual. He honestly didn't know if that would affect his 501c3 status. Pastors don't realize there's very little they can't do as a pastor in terms of what might be considered political activity. As we've already pointed out, it's moral activity. They have politicized issues of morality. Let me ask you this. Can you give the nutshell what can and what can't pastors do in terms of political activity?
Well, first of all, not one church has ever lost its tax exemption since 1954 when this was placed in the IRS code. Not one church has ever lost its tax exemption. So I think we start with that premise. Churches are different than nonprofit organizations. They don't need a letter from IRS. Nonprofit organizations do. Churches are exempt from the moment.
They're inherently tax exempt.
Yeah, they're inherently tax exempt when they are created. From the moment of their creation, they're tax exempt without having to get permission from the IRS. And pastors clearly can always speak on biblical and moral issues. That's never off limit. No matter whether politicians politicize them, it's never off limit. Pastor, that's the role of a pastor. They can speak on biblical and moral issues, abortion, marriage, Israel, whatever it might be, religious liberty, other things that are happening in the community, in the world. Those are never off limits. And then beyond that, certainly I think they can encourage people to vote, because I think that is a talent that is going to be accountable. We are going to be accountable for how we use that. We are electing agents to act on our behalf. I think they can talk about that. People a lot of times put voting and politics in this one category, and it's not pretty. Voting is the extension of your biblical values, and you're putting someone to act in your behalf as an agent. And I think we can also then educate people about what the candidates believe. We have information on our website at lc.org, voter guides, that give a good overview about the candidate's position. So you talk about biblical values, you then give them information about what the candidates stand and let them make their decision.
And so everything you've just listed, everything you've just itemized are things that pastors can do from the pulpit, right there on a Sunday morning service. They can do all of that. They can educate. People especially wonder about with candidates on a presidential election and so forth. They can educate, talk about what biblical values entail, educate their parishioners and their congregants as to where the candidates stand on those issues, and then encourage them to vote for that candidate that embraces and will further biblical principles, correct?
No question about it. You need to speak on the biblical values, and then pastors are educators, so educate your people about where these candidates stand. It's one thing to say vote biblical values, but if the people in the pews don't know where the candidates stand, then how are they going to make those informed decisions? So you can give that information to them. And we have that information at our website, Liberty Counsel's website, lc.org. We have voter guides. We have bulletin inserts that you can use as well. There's the Billy Graham advertisement that you can actually publish in your bulletin. You can publish it in your newspaper. You can post it on your Facebook and your other social media. All of that's available by going to lc.org. This is, without question, the most critical election of our lifetimes. Billy Graham has recognized that. John MacArthur has recognized that. The pastor that I was telling you about, they have recognized it, and that is happening around the country. We need to vote biblical values. You need to do that. You also need to encourage other people in your community to do so as well and educate them on where the candidate stands. For that kind of information, visit lc.org. And also remember Liberty Counsel in your prayers and your financial support.
You have been listening to Faith and Freedom with Liberty Counsel. We hope that we have motivated you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedom. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email updates. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.